Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is James Brew, Emisa of the Brew Show, and we've just seen two different Champions League semi-finals. We saw a thriller between former winners Inter Milan and FC Barcelona, and then we saw a really tactical, emotional semi-final between Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal, two teams who are vying to win the Big Air Trophy for the first time. And at the end of the semi-final stage, ladies and gentlemen, we have Inter Milan, three-time winners Inter Milan, taking on French champions Paris Saint-Germain for a chance to win the showpiece event in Munich. So how did we get here? Well, let me start with tonight's semi-final, which was Paris Saint-Germain versus Arsenal, where the Parisians went into this home leg of the semi-final with a 1-0 victory from London and saw themselves 1-0 up at halftime on the night thanks to Fabian Ruiz. And then, after missing a penalty from Vitinha, went into a 2-0 lead thanks to Achraf Hakimi. Arsenal then pulled one back through Bukayo Saka to make it 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. But that is how it finished. And the Parisians saw themselves in their second ever Champions League final and second in 5 years, where they will take on the Nerazzurri, who survived a thriller. And I don't think thriller might be the best word to describe this, but ladies and gentlemen, you let me know in the comment section what you think the best description for the semi-final between Inter and Barca was. So 3-3 from the first leg in Spain. We went to Italy, where Inter found themselves 2-0 up at halftime thanks to goals from Lautaro Martinez and Hakan Çalhanoğlu. Then Barca did a mini remontada where they quickly leveled the tie thanks to Eric Garcia and Dani Olmo, and then went ahead with mere minutes left on the clock thanks to Rafinha, who must have thought he had won it. Only for Acerbi to score his first ever Champions League goal with literally seconds left in the tie to force extra time, and then Inter go 4-3 up thanks to Fratesi, and that was all we had for the night. That the Fat Lady had finished singing, then Nerazzurri knocked the Blaugrana out in the most painful manner. Painful for fans of Barcelona, obviously, or friends of Barcelona, but for football lovers and purists, it was pretty much the most perfect way to tell a story on a football pitch. So now we have two teams heading to Munich. Paris Saint-Germain again looking to win their first ever Champions League final. Inter Milan looking to chalk their fourth crown. Who do you fancy to lift the Big Air Trophy come the end of the European season? The Italians have been impressive throughout the campaign. They built the bulk of their campaign on a steady defense and hitting people on the counter-attack due to their impressive pressing game, as evident from the first goal in Tuesday's semi-final tie against Barcelona. They have Lautaro Martinez, they have Marcus Thuram, you've got Barella in midfield, they've got a steady defense of Bastoni and Dumfries and DiMarco being marshaled by Jan Sommer. And I only mentioned 3 of the 5 defenders you would regularly find at the back for them. They have talents all across the pitch, not necessarily star-studded names as you may have expected to see from an Italian giant, but they have a steady team from goalkeeper to striker and a well-equipped bench. That being said, they are going up against the best attack in Europe, in my opinion, when it comes to front foot football. PSG have options when it comes to wingers who have a goal craving. They've got Bakola, they've got Dembele, they've got Due, they've got Kvaratskhelia. When it comes to strikers, maybe not necessarily one that always puts fear in the hearts of defenders, but they do have Gonzalo Ramos. When it comes to midfield, they've got the Portuguese pairing of Vitinha and Neves, who, let's be honest, can outfight anybody on their day. Then they've got Hakimi in defense. They've got Marquinhos, their captain. They've got this young guy, Pacho, who's been doing his thing. They've got Nuno Mendes. But to me, the most important person in Paris Saint-Germain's team has to be Gianluigi Donnarumma. Once again, showing his class. He did so against Aston Villa in the quarterfinals. He did it again against Arsenal at the semi-final stage. Donnarumma would like to add the club version of the European crown to the international version, seeing as he won the Euros with Italy at Euro 2020. He would love to make it a European double and then win the UEFA Champions League with PSG. So, guys, who do you fancy to win the title this time around? Let me know in the comment section. Let me know who you might even fancy to be the man of the match at the end of the final. Who do you think was the best player for the Champions League campaign? Would you give it to a member of either team that has qualified for the final? Would you give it to Dembele? Would you give it to Lautaro Martinez? Would you give it to Donnarumma? Would you give it to Jan Sommer? Would you give it to Hakimi? Would you give it to Dumfries? Would you give it to Kvaratskhelia? Would you give it to Due? Or would it be somebody else outside the final? Would you give it to Rafinha? Would you give it to Lamine Yamal? Would you give it to Mbappe? Would you give it to Bellingham? Would you give it to Vinicius? Would you give it to Mo Salah? Let me know in the comment section who impressed you the most this UEFA Champions League campaign and why. Guys, once again, it's been a pleasure bringing this video to you. This is James Brew, Emisa of the Brew Show, and you can follow the Brew Show on your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, X, Twitter. I said X and said Twitter again. My bad. Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Threads. And you can find James Brew, Emisa on the same platforms with the addition of TikTok. Let's hope for a wonderful conclusion to an exciting UEFA Champions League final. And I'll catch you same time next time as I bring to you the UEFA Europa League final preview tomorrow. Bye for now.